And welcome back, everyone, to the start of a new Dragon Ball Z What If. And unfortunately, to a couple people who were saying this would be a boring one to do, this is the one that won out in the poll. The other one will be coming after this one. This one comes to us from Freddie Hall, Shusui Uzumaki, Corey Dillon, Tucker Bear Productions, Drax the Saiyan. Oh God, what was that last word? The Saiyan something. Or Saiyan Killer, whatever. But that is, what if Chi-Chi kept training? And specifically, though, every now and then I will get a what if suggestion where someone has given me another one that isn't the exact same description, but more or less means the same thing. For example, what if Naruto is a Senju versus what if Naruto has a wood release? Well, if you're asking me what if Naruto is a Senju, you're probably asking me if he has wood release. Because otherwise, it's the exact same scenario. Because the Uzumaki and the Senju were related. The same goes here. A couple of these suggestions were actually what if Chi-Chi became a Z fighter, which would imply she kept training. My guess is also for the people who ask if she kept training, they want her to be a Z fighter. So we combined them together. So we would actually start this what if off, honestly, after the end of Dragon Ball overall, where Chi-Chi and Goku are married, living together, and have Gohan. So there's a 5-year gap in between Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z. And we know Goku got a decent amount stronger in that time. Not a huge amount stronger, but a decent amount stronger. But in essence, all we have to change is really Chi-Chi's attitude towards this. Yes, she wanted to be a housewife, clearly, apparently, a mother, and she didn't really want to go on to fight. So what if we change that at least a certain amount? What if Chi-Chi, despite settling down, never stopped training with Goku? What does that affect for her personality? Well, first off, I think her and Goku would keep training up until she's pregnant for a certain amount of months. And then she's like, Goku, I can't keep training anymore. I gotta wait for Gohan. Gotta wait for a baby to be born. It's like, oh, okay. Well, that's fine. Hey, should he train with us too? And Chi-Chi here, I think, is a lot more soft on the subject. Not that I mean she's a pushover, but more like, I want him to enjoy what we enjoy, but I'd also want him to have a better life than we've had available to us, Goku. You've lived in the woods your entire life without any other means. Don't really have any other job skills except for farming, because he's a radish farmer, and I'm sure that's what he was doing even in Dragon Ball. And then I was lucky to grow up with my father's wealth, but even he lost that most of when the Fire Mountain burned down most of his savings. He still some money. He's more than willing to help us, but I don't want Gohan to just be living the bare minimum. I want him to be able to make something or something, provide more for his family than we had available to us. And then Goku kind of looks at the stomach and just kind of feels her belly, and just kind of feels his son, and he can feel. And because Goku Gositsuki, he can kind of feel, even then he can kind of feel Gohan just starting to grow, and just kind of say, "There's no reason he can't do both, Chi-Chi. I mean, you're right. I think we want the best for our son." But I mean that should also mean him being able to not only provide do better than we did, but also to be able to defend himself too and fight. And if he wants to learn how to fight alongside us, he can. If not, then he can go and be the best guy in the world. No matter what, though, he's going to be our son, so he's going to be awesome. and Chi just kind of like tears up, and just kind of like just grabs. It's like, I love you. It's like, oh, love you too, Chi-Chi. And so Gohan would be born. And obviously Chi-Chi will have to take care of him. But keep in mind, in this entire scenario, Chi-Chi doesn't stop training. And specifically, she's training with Goku. Now, Chi-Chi's actual power level is not... I think I've seen a couple... Chi-Chi power level. Hold on. Chi-Chi power level. I think I've seen a couple of numbers thrown out there. I think one number I saw was like 75. Which honestly would not... Oh! Hold on, Chi-Chi, 23rd Budokai, official power level is 130. Since she never trained afterwards, power level is the same in the whole verse, or probably lower. So apparently that is a actual calc somewhere down the line. She has 130 power level, which actually puts her only slightly below Roshi in terms of power. Roshi's probably the more skilled fighter, but he'd have a tough time with Chi-Chi, actually, which is impressive. Now, Goku very much outclassed her. He's more than twice as strong as her. But that gives us the scenario of 5 years worth of training. Now, granted, they don't have like the room of spirit of time, the pendulum room, or a gravity chamber to train with. So, how they can train and improve themselves is limited. Absolutely. And we can kind of gauge how strong a human, because Chi is human, can grow based on the growth rate of Krillin and Tien. We don't know how strong Yamcha was prior to the 177 power level, but Krillin, we know the last confirmed power level he had prior to Dragon Ball Z was, I believe, in it was one of the previous tournaments with Tien, or it was with Roshi. He had about 100 power level, give or take. So he was able to double it within 8 years' time. Granted, how tough he was, how intensely he was training, we can't really gauge. And he barely was ever training with anyone else. Tien, we do have at least somewhat of a gauge of his power level, that he was 180 when he fought Goku the first time. And by the end of the beginning of the Red Saga, he's 250. That's around a 70 increase, which was almost 50%. It really was not that strong of an increase, and a lot of this comes from the fact that they were not training individually with each other or as intensely with other individuals. Tien particularly trains with Chaozu, who is much weaker than him, and they do pretty much the same damn thing. So to gauge how strong both Chi-Chi and Goku would be, it's a little difficult, to say the least. I will say this. I think in 5 years' time, taking into consideration she's also got to raise her son, and she has to, be pregnant, so she can't train for a while. I will not go a full 3 times stronger, but I'd say she's probably more than doubled her strength, because she and Goku probably really intensely train together. They're able to push each other, and she's got a bigger gap to climb. So she is probably sitting somewhere in the neighborhood of actually his suppressed power in Z, and when we first meet him, around the 300 million mark. This is more than a 2-time multiplier for Chi-Chi, and I think that's actually a really reasonable number, which puts her actually as the 3rd strongest individual on the planet at this time. Add on to the fact that she probably does learn how to fly at some point, along with the others. Goku, however, we know Goku's power was 412. If I'm getting that number right, 412. When he with the Reds. Here, because Chi-Chi isn't as strong as him initially, and it takes a lot longer, I will say he's probably more like, again, for an even number, for a 550. I think an extra 100 for 5 years and training intensely with a partner who eventually was getting stronger along the way, I think is more than a reasonable number to throw out there. So Chi-Chi and Goku are happy. Goku brings Gohan along. Chi-Chi stays home probably. Brings Gohan along. They shows off his son. That's when Raditz shows up and kidnaps. Goku still gets that cheap shot in on him because his power is suppressed by about a quarter. So his power is only at about, doing the math on top of your head can sometimes be a bitch. It's about at 400-ish right now, with a quarter of his power suppressed, roughly. So Goku flies off, and it's the same thing. The Piccolo and Goku fight is the same scenario as we had in the original, minus the fact that Gohan, I think they haven't started training Gohan yet. I think Gohan's mildly gotten into it, unlike before where he was a bit of a free cat. Gohan, his mother is kind of encouraging, it's okay, son, honey, and then they kind of have been able to encourage him a little bit to fight, but there's no real increase in Gohan's power right now, as he's just too young by the general standard to be training at the moment, at least by Chi-Chi's eyes. Like, wait till he's at least in his upper singles. But Goku, shows off his full power, and Raditz does pick up on the fact that his power is actually 550. But he's gotten actually a lot stronger on this planet. It's like, damn it. I was like, what's wrong? What's wrong? Piccolo's like, nothing. And he's just been like, betraying all this time to kill him, and yet he's that much stronger than me still. Damn it! And they go into the fight. Now the fight is still pretty one-sided. Goku being over a third of Raditz's full power, though, doesn't mean he can push Raditz a little harder. He can maybe even get a hit in here or there. But ultimately, it's still a pretty one-sided fight in this case. If Goku's power was more like an 8 or 9, then he'd actually be able to put up a much more solid fight against him. And actually be able to push him a lot harder. But unfortunately, that's not the case. Now, you might be thinking, well, why isn't Chi-Chi there fighting? There's no reason for her to be fighting there. Just because she keeps training doesn't mean she changes a lot of her routine. And she's got to keep the house clean. She's got to be cooking still, all that. And that may sound sexist, but that's what she does. She takes care of the household. She cooks, cleans, all that. She just happens to keep training in this. And Gohan is ultimately the one that, saves Goku, hits Raditz. Unfortunately, it doesn't matter. Goku, I still think, dies and, has to go to King Kai's afterwards. And this is where things kind of change up a bit. They explain what happened, how Piccolo kidnapped Gohan, and how Goku's dead, but he'll be brought back to life with Dragon Balls. But there's these Saiyans that are coming, and we need to, we need to prepare and train. And we're going to prepare and train. And Chi-Chi just looks at it, and after raging out, ah! It's like, you're not doing this, not without me. What? And say, my husband's dead. I don't care if he'll be brought back in due time in a year. My husband said, my son is out there somewhere and I can't find him. I'm going to get strong enough so I can beat these Saiyans and take down Piccolo for taking my son. All right. We'll meet you on Kami's Lookout. Nimbus! And it's like, she goes up there. And obviously they all learn to fly at this point. Like I said, Chi-Chi would learn to fly. I just didn't say when. And so now Chi-Chi is joining the training with the Z Fighters. Hence, Chi-Chi's also a Z Fighter in this version. And that's where there's a big change. There's a third member of the party who's training. She's the strongest of the group. So that means she can push them harder and aid them more. And I believe, what did they say their combined power level was when it was all said and done with those Saiyans? Actually, the combined power level really wasn't all that impressive. I think they said the combined power was like 2,000 and something, which is weird because that's not how that math worked when you actually find out what their power levels were. So anyway, so Chi-Chi there, and she helps a little bit, but again, they can't take on those Saiyans. And so the year training happens. Now let's focus on Goku first. Goku ultimately got right around a 20 times multiplier when it was all said and done. Could he be a bit higher because he's a bit stronger in this case and can handle the gravity quicker? You can make an argument for it. I wouldn't go much beyond like an extra 2 on there though, simply just because we're already at a number of 550. So the math would just be easier that way. So if I were to just do 22, and I think that's actually reasonable. He's a little stronger, so he can go a little stronger. So if you have 550 times, so times 2, 11, and then another 11 on there, that'd put him at 12,100. I also think that means that he can use a higher level of Kaioken, like I always do, but not by much, just an extra step up. So that means he can actually handle the triple times Kaioken times 3. I always like triple Kaioken. Easier. It won't mess him up as bad as it did in the original. And he can handle it times 4 like he did the triple, and he can handle it times 5. The real interesting thing here is going to be more Chi-Chi. Where is she at? And by comparison, where's everyone else at training up on Kami's Lookout? If I remember correctly, Krillin took about a times 2, almost a times 2 multiplier, because his power is basically around, times 5, not times 2, sorry. He took a near even times 6. What was it he took? No, it was a times 6, like near spot on, because we saw it, the official power level has him at 1,500 after the fact, and we know humans apparently don't get Zenkai. So it turns out that 1,200 is actually an outlier, and he was suppressing his power. Or is not an outlier, it's a suppressor power level. So he took a times 6. Yamcha actually took, I think, a higher level of power increase. It wasn't, I think it was like close to a times 8, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, right around a times 8, actually. Tien took also, roughly speaking, around a times 8 as well, if I'm not mistaken. Or close to it, at any rate. Actually, no, Tien only took, now that I remember correctly, I don't have my power level book in front of me right now because I remember the multiplier I had there. I did the math. 250 and then 4 and then 6. He took almost a times 8. Not quite, because that would have put him at 2,000. Chiaotzu we don't have an actual number on. Chiaotzu, I think we'll just safely put Chiaotzu at 8. 800, because I think that's a reasonable boost. Krillin, I think we could actually put higher at this point by a solid amount, because Chi-Chi is probably the most motivated among eight because her husband and kid are gone. So I think we can actually boost everyone by like maybe 2 times in terms of our multiplier. So Krillin's times 6 turns into a times 8, which actually puts him. Now I remember correctly why I said that. Because Krillin's power level is a times. I'm doing a 250 with him, 201. So it was his power level, or 2 or 3, something like that. So he actually ended up taking a times. It was actually a times 6. It was like a times 6 point something, or actually a times 7 point something, actually. So if we do the math briefly on that, that would put him roughly around 1900, which is much more impressive. Tien, likewise, is actually going to get a pretty hefty boost. It puts him nearly at 24, put him at 2400. When you add another 2 based on its power levels, 250, 500, added on to the 1890, I think, or 1870. That puts him roughly like at 2,300 and something. So we'll round up to 2,400. Then Yamcha, we will go. I think we can reasonably just put him at the 1,800. Chi-Chi's the one who's probably got the biggest growth here, because we don't have a great gauge of how strong Chi-Chi really could get. Chi-Chi, I think, could take a legitimate 10 times multiplier here, which puts her at 3,000, which still puts her only as the second strongest person on the planet. Sadly, it doesn't. She's just not going to be able to stack up to the Saiyans very well at this point. But Chi-Chi still is prepared. They don't know they're going to get their ass kicked. So obviously Goku is late to arrive. He's heading there. The Saiyans show up. They create the Saiyamen first. Chi-Chi plows through them. She plows through them, as is the majority of them. Gohan still freezes. But then Chi-Chi comes and saves her son. I do think, by the way, she gives a death glare to Piccolo. Like, you bastard, when this is over. And Piccolo can actually feel like the motherly wrath. Just, sorry, I thought I was lying. So it's like, look, I did what I had to do. You were doing it for your own petty desire for world domination. Whatever. The point is, you have your kid back. Blah 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 blah. And so yeah, she kind of rips him a little one, but like I said, the Saiyamen are taken care of, and then the Nappa fight happens. And like before, Yamcha's first off KO'd by a Saiyaman. Although Yamcha being at 18, he might survive a Saiyaman. Barely. He's got an extra 300 plus power level on there. I'm going to be conservative and say no, he cannot survive a Saiyaman still. If he were maybe 2,000 or up, I'd correct that. But I don't think he could survive the Saiyaman. So Yamcha dies, Chaozu dies, Tien sadly doesn't make it. Although he's handling himself better, and even when he does his final attack, I think he does get a legitimate hit in on Nappa that doesn't tickle. Like 2,400 power level does not tickle when it hits you. And he's a bit more, it's like, all right, not gonna lie, that one hurt. And it's like, this is gonna hurt more. And Chi-Chi probably can get a rage boost too, even though not saying. Like, this picture comes from the anime. Looks like she's using Kaioken. That's why I used it. So she legitimately comes in and with like a rage boost, and her power probably upticks maybe by like half. Whereas Gohan being a Saiyan, it like literally multiplies. Chi-Chi probably gets like at best a times 2 when she's at her angriest. And maybe it goes into like, maybe it goes into times 2 in this case when it's all or nothing. Her son is on the line. And she actually does something that no one else realized she could do. Kamehameha! As far as we know, we don't know if Chi-Chi can use ki or not. We never see. Yeah, she's got an aura in that picture, but we've never seen her use an energy blast. So as far as we know, she can't, but maybe she can. I can see 5 years training with Goku. Yeah, he would have taught her how to do that. So she just Nappa now is like, holy crap. And we know again, it's never shown with the Frieza power level indication. But we know that the Kamehameha does a bit of a power boost as well. Not anything super serious, but a power boost. So maybe an air grand added on there. So that's 7 grand. Yeah, Nappa's like, and he barely gets out of the way, but basically he just cleaved his entire arm up. You wench! I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna blow my ball. Just boom, and it fires the energy like cannon from his mouth. Chi-Chi's completely exhausted at this point. God, he gets nigh her son. He's like, Mom! It's like, ah! And Piccolo sees Gohan, who he's come to care about, and his mother, who's protecting him, is like, no! He gets annoyed. Mr. Piccolo! Gohan, I'm sorry. You all right? You saved us. I'm sorry. And he says, I'm sorry. My plan. And he briefly says, my plans were to come in, but use you to conquer the world. But as time grew and passed, I just came to care about you. And, I'm sorry. And look at you kind of like a son of mine. And he apologized to Chi-Chi too. It's like you saved my son's life. It's okay. And he just dies. And then, well, this is pointless. All right, now, but let's end it here. We'll get fit for a cybernetic when we get back to the place. It's like, great. I can't wait to get out of this dump hole. And that's when Goku shows up on Nimbus. And Chi-Chi, Piccolo, Krillin here, buddy. It's like, Chi-Chi, hey, babe. And it's like, Goku, you're back. It's like, okay, take Gohan and get out of here. I'll take care of the rest of this. And Goku's power is just starting to flare. And again, he's keeping his power suppressed. He kept it by suppressing only by 50%. So 12, nearly, let's say 7,000. And he just starts to flex his power. And then just boom. Just, what does it say? Over 12,000! 12,000! And Goku makes very short work of Nappa in this case. Because now it's not just his friend and kid that were attacked. His wife was beaten to hell. It's like, no. Even Goku has his limits. And it's like, yeah. Now, he doesn't kill Nappa because Nappa's missing an arm right now. But he does break Nappa's back like he does. And he does it quick. Just boom! Not even a Kaioken needed. Just, And, Vegeta, help me. And say, no, what are you? Vegeta, why? Because I'm a monkey. Abridged. Oh no, I'm not a monkey anymore. And so I can't believe he would have lived. It's like, yeah, he was no more use to me, Kakarot. You though, you could be quite some. You are quite different indeed. And Goku's squaring down with him. He's like, get everyone out of here. Let's do this somewhere else, Vegeta. Fine, your funeral. I must admit, I'll give you one option. It's very rare to find someone of your power, even by our standards. For a low class like you to reach such power is quite a miracle. Why not join me, Kakarot? You could have whatever you want. The universe could be at your fingertips. Good Alfred, I already have everything I want. Well, don't act like I didn't offer it to you. And so, yeah, now their fight is about to begin. And that is where part one of what Chi-Chi kept training ends. Until then, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Join us Saturday for the next part. Until then, see you later.